Hello, welcome to the Cinebums podcast with John and Luke. We're doing another
Hello.
episode. I was thinking about this the other day. We've always had a reason lately for why we're doing this episode. We don't have a reason really for this one. We just need to do an episode, mainly. We don't have to say, the weather is like this, so now we're doing this kind of episode, and it not make sense at all. So
Well, it's November, so we're going to do this completely random episode.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what do you want me to say? I can, if anyone is like, no, I love it when they talk about the weather. Well, it is cold in LA right now. So
How
that's
cold is it?
It is actually kind of cold. It's like in the 40s.
Oh,
It's
dang.
been chilly and it rained. Which in
I actually
LA,
did see some people posting rain from LA, like
it's like a
celebrities.
big deal that
Yeah.
it rained in LA. And
I feel
it's
like
been,
everyone outside of LA hears about when it rains in LA because
Right,
everyone in LA
right.
makes such a big deal about
Yeah,
it.
because and a lot of the content is coming out of LA, so that's also why the
Yeah.
whole world is just watching us, But
The eyes of the
I was
world.
watching, right. I was watching Anthony Jeselnik, Fire in the Maternity Ward, which is something that could be on, let's say, my movie bender. And he has this joke. It's not even really it's kind of a joke. Yeah, it's a joke. But he goes like, how he's starting off his another thing, and he's going like, I live in Los Angeles, or at least like the way you people wish you did. So funny. It's like just such his tone was just so, douchey about it.
Yeah, classic Jeselnik tone.
Other than that, I wanted to bring another thing up. It was I watched something lately when how I told you when I went home last. I was telling you about that earlier, but there's a very specific thing I watched back home that I'm wondering if you remember it or not. I was going through some like family videos, and one video is a sketch video made in high school by me and John here. Us
Wow.
John is doing his best like SNL, Bill Hader, high school thing. And so
I don't
here's
know what you're talking about.
here's what the premise is of the sketch, all right? And I'll see if you remember it. We are basically, John and I are spoofing a Nike LeBron James commercial from like 2010, 2011, like that year. And it's, if anyone here is an
Yes.
NBA fan, it's the one where LeBron is talking to the camera a lot, and he's like, "What should I do? What should I
What
do?"
should I do?
And and he's kind of like just trying to like, I don't know,
This was like
lash
after the
out
Heat, the
after
whole
he went to the Heat.
taking my
Yeah,
talents to South Beach thing, right? Okay,
exactly.
yeah.
And he's trying to lash out, I guess, and control the narrative against the haters, who were all mad about him going there. And so he's just like, "What should I do? What should I do?" And it was like actually a huge commercial. Like everyone saw it. I mean, at least in my world, everyone knew what it was. I'm
Yeah.
sure maybe a lot of people didn't give a fuck about it, but like when it dropped, like it was like, all the Glenbard South High School basketball community could talk about. And yeah, so John and I are in this video spoofing this commercial, and John is the on-camera talent, just like
Obviously.
how he is here. He's the eye candy, and then and now.
Of
Um,
course.
and and John, you're just kind of looking at the camera, and you're very skinny as fuck. And you're like, I think I'm skinny as fuck too, but you're just like, what should I do? Like, what should I do? And we're just like going around. We're like at different parts of my, my parents' house and my neighborhood. Maybe there were some locations by your parents' house. I mean, all very much in the same
Same
area.
proximity. Yeah.
Yeah, very much in the same proximity. And I will say like that other video that you and I had to revisit that we made, the Thomas Jefferson video.
Yes.
Um, it was very bizarre. So this was bizarre too, but I will say there was something about it that I was actually a little impressed by. And
Uh,
I actually felt like each thing that we shot, like each scene, if you will, was a like at least you could say trying to be a bid. Like we were trying to
yeah.
have a bid in every scene. And like there's a scene of you you have a bag of like Doritos or something like that, or a
Okay.
bag of chips.
I was gonna say
And
I
we're
do remember Doritos being involved somehow, but yeah,
Yeah, for some
that's
reason it was
all I can
Doritos,
remember.
and you're like flinging Doritos in my like the field behind my house. You're just throwing them like around
Oh,
for some reason.
it's comedy
And
gold right there.
and then you pick up a Dorito and you say Doritos even taste good on the ground. And then you run away.
Wha- Man, it's just our like surreal humor, just
Yeah.
subversive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a scene you're in like one of those like little childhood like cars that with pedals that kids would
Yeah.
drive. You're like in one and you look obviously ridiculous because you were very tall even then. And you say something like, should I stop listening to my friends? They're my friends, which is like a line that like I recall LeBron says exactly in the ad. So like I don't know. I was like, this is actually pretty funny. Like I enjoyed it.
Wow. Man,
I'll have to
yeah, you have to send that to me
get in your
or
hands
post it.
somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on I'll have to get my dad because he burned it to a DVD, so he'll have to do the reverse to get it
Yeah.
into the internet world that we are now in, the MP4 world that we are now in. But
Wow, that's a great find. Yeah, I totally forgot about that until you brought it up. And I don't remember like any of it except Doritos. And I think I remember being in like your parents' basement. You have like booth seating.
right.
Kind of like I remember like sitting at that and having Doritos in front of me. But that is like
Right.
it. I don't remember anything else
Yeah.
that we shot or yeah.
It's definitely like an unfinished project, but when I was like I do recall like it was something where I was like, "Oh yeah, I do remember for like a day or two being very immersed in trying to do
Yeah.
that." Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's a great find. We'll have to submit that to SNL. See what they think. See what Lauren thinks.
Oh my God. I heard there's the best SNL story that actually Jake um sent me. I forget who is the one telling the story, but he's talking about Nicolas Cage, being on the guest host or whatever, and Nicolas Cage is going on and on to Lauren about something about like women and like saying very degrading things about women. Who's like, the best part of working with um about leaving Las Vegas, the best part was Elizabeth Shue's tits were there every day or something like that. And he says that about multiple things, apparently like with his co-stars. And then Lauren Michaels says something like, "You can't say that." And and Nick Cage is like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well," and Lauren goes like, and I'm like just transcribing the story as it's being told by another person, but and Lauren goes like, "Well, your cousin Sophia Coppola. Imagine if I was just talking about her, to you." And then Nick Cage goes like, "Oh man."
I hadn't thought about that.
And he's like, you must think I'm the worst host. And then Lauren Michaels goes, no, that would be Steven Seagal.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, no, like there's
I wonder if that was Al Franken because
I think it was. Did you see
I
maybe
saw
this exact interview, or
Al Franken was on Tom Segura's podcast.
that's what it is, I think. That's what it was.
And I didn't listen to it, but I saw a clip on YouTube of Al
Yeah.
Franken, and it was like Steven Seagal was the worst SNL host. Like that was like
Right.
the clickbait. So I bet it was him. Yeah. Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, SNL has stories for days, but I don't know, that was like a really good one. That was a really good one. Just the specific exchange of it.
Wow, props to Lauren. Very yeah, he seems like a stand-up guy. Just because he easily in that situation where it's like behind the scenes with a huge like person like Nicolas Cage, he easily could have just gone along with it, like, oh yeah, nice tits, yeah, okay, yeah.
I probably would have.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I mean, I wouldn't
People...
have stood up to him. Yeah.
If someone goes, hey dude, right, nice tits, I don't go like, hey, respect women. I go like,
what if that was your sister and I was saying that?
yeah, I don't ever do that. I never do. I just go like, I don't want to say anything, because I don't want to get into a thing. So I go like, yeah, nice, yeah, the nice tits. So then I'm like
the tits are
agreeing,
nice, yeah. Yeah, my go-to in those situations is usually it's like a
yeah.
It's like not a yes. It's like not a. It's like kind of just acknowledging the comment, but not agreeing with it necessarily. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I'm like, I don't want to be with you, but I don't want to act like I'm not with you or something.
Yeah,
like
I don't want to just like shoot you down or offend you, but yeah, that's my Midwestern avoid conflict method. But yeah. Yeah, that's great. Another thing, I did actually see a clip from that episode. This is random, but Al Franken can draw the United States by memory, freehand, and he does it on.
What?
Yeah, that's just the thing he does. And he does it on the podcast, and he like gives it to Tom and Christina P. He lets them have the map that he drew.
That's so insane.
It's pretty impressive, but it's just kind of like why?
Yeah, I don't get why. Yeah, like he gets all the little nooks and crannies of it, like
it's really
Louisiana's peninsulas or whatever.
Yeah, it is like insane how good it is, but it's also just like why,
Yeah.
Like we
imagine
have
even
maps.
trying to draw Illinois, the state of Illinois, and how it has that weird thing at the bottom, the peninsula, like all the peninsulas and the whatever they call
the
those,
Mississippi and yeah. I don't.
That
it's
is
not
crazy.
Yeah, it's not something super useful, but it's impressive.
Yeah, I can't put it on the resume, but it is cool.
Well, should we? What else were we going to talk about in this random episode with no?
We're going to talk about the Denver Film Festival and movies that you're going to watch. Is that a Busch Light?
Yeah, this is a Busch Light. I actually
revealed.
This has been in my fridge since February.
So that'd be why.
Yes, this is for a friend's birthday who happens to like Busch Light, and then we got stuck with the extras, and I never drink Busch Light. So yeah.
Well, at least you don't need any water around you. You got Busch Light.
Yeah, this is hydration. Yeah. Watered down beer is all I need. But anyway, the Denver Film Festival, which the true OG fans of the podcast will know that it's in a way the origins of the podcast.
It's one of the origins.
Yeah.
I think weirdly we were like an episode or two in, maybe that's it. And suddenly I booked a flight to Denver to go to a film festival to cover it for the podcast. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was super excited by that spontaneous decision because that's something that I definitely would not. I don't think I've
That's
ever done
actually
something that
honestly,
spontaneous.
that's probably the most spontaneous thing I've ever done by far. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, I was nervous at the time if you would get like a media pass in time too, because
Right.
I just did it on a whim. I had no idea how easy it was. Maybe I shouldn't say this in case they listen, but I didn't know how
Yeah.
easy it was to get a pass.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember being like, "All right," because I was trying to work out the things on my end. I was like, "I gotta get the flight. I gotta take off work within a week," blah blah blah, which both were not very hard. But then I was like, "Oh man," and then John just has to come through with the media passes, and then once you got the passes, I felt so like accomplished. I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'm off to
We're doing it.
Denver."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt much like this time, which I'll get into it. It felt like I don't know what the word is, like almost like we're like pirates or something. I felt like I was infiltrating something that where I didn't belong. But
Right.
yeah, yeah, we had a anyway, it was a great time at the Denver Film Festival. And so yeah, hopefully next year or sometime in the future we can go back.
And we can keep getting the press passes.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they gave it to me this time. I feel like they got to do it again.
Yeah.
I haven't caused any
Yeah.
trouble. So it would be nice next time if we both go to the red carpet presentation too, because that is just like a scene to be
Right.
around.
Right. Right.
And I remember last time I think you were seeing something else at the time when I went to the red carpet.
Yeah. I saw the film Shoplifters when you went to
That's
the
right.
red carpet.
And like that film festival, this festival also had a Koreeda film. That's how you say it, right? The director of Shoplifters. I think it's Koreeda. Um, but there's so he also his new film was also at the Denver Film
Okay.
Festival this year,
Okay.
which stars I think it's Sun Kang Ho, who's the dad in Parasite.
Oh, cool.
So I was for sure I was like, oh, I gotta go see that then. And of course that was all sold out. And to get in with a media pass, you had to show up like an hour early and wait in
Mhm.
line. So I
Mhm.
didn't end up going to that. But regardless, I did go to the opening night red carpet presentation last Wednesday of Armageddon Time. The movie is directed by James Gray, who, if you don't
Mhm.
know him, he directed Ad Astra, which was a movie that we both really liked when that came out a
Yeah.
couple years ago.
He also directed Two Lovers with Joaquin Phoenix and We Own the Night with Joaquin
Hmm.
Phoenix, which are both supposed to be very good. I have yet to get to them.
Yeah, likewise. But with I loved both Ad Astra and Armageddon Time.
Cool.
Um,
Cool.
so yeah, I definitely want to see the rest of James Gray's filmography. But yeah, yeah, this red carpet presentation was
Yeah, yeah.
I always get so so like anxious walking up to it because everyone is wearing nice clothes,
Right,
and they
right.
have all these official people work and like volunteers working, and there's like actual filmmakers there
Mhm.
that have films at the
Right,
festival,
right,
not
right,
just any guy off the street. And then
right.
I just come straight from work. I get off the train and walk over to the opera house where the red carpet presentation is, and I just have like just a t-shirt and my jacket on that I just wear at work. And
Yeah, yeah, and you're very much observant there, just observing everything.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, and I just walk up to the desk, and clearly they think that I am just some guy walking by on the street that's like, hey, what's going on, like what's with the red carpet. And they
Oh,
totally think that I'm just some guy walking up like trying to figure out what's going on. But I was like, yeah, I'm here for a media pass pickup. And then the girl was like she like hesitated so much, and then she like asked me my name. And then of course it took them forever to find my pass.
oh, wow.
And the the one woman who was like in the back actually like rifling through passes, she was super like friendly. But then there was a couple other people in front who were like talking to me, and they were like could not be more skeptical that I was fucking with them or something. And she's like, and what organization are you with again? And I was like, the Cinebums podcast. And then she just like kind of gives this like, okay, like not like nothing rude or mean, but just like an okay, like clearly she has no idea what I'm talking about, or she might not have even understood what I said. So then she just like writes down my name so they can help find it. And yeah, I swear this one girl who was working there was just like so nervous because she didn't want to. I because I honestly think that she thought that I was like pranking them or something, and she didn't. Yeah, she like didn't know what to do. I don't know. Maybe she was just nervous because of the whole. Maybe she was new, and who knows? I shouldn't judge too
Right.
much, but yeah, and then they were just going to give me a regular like media pass with no name on it or anything because they couldn't find it. So I get that, and then I start walking away, and then the woman who was like super friendly and like joking with me, she like yells my name across the hall, and she found it, and I got it, and it was okay. And I think after that it was like, okay, he's like for real, he's not just like messing around
He actually
with
has
us.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
so that was
plus,
good.
if you kept your cool the whole time, then they have to like, fake it till
Yeah,
you make it, that sort of thing,
yeah, because I did feel a little weird walking away with like the generic media pass. That I was like, I feel like they're going to be watching me as if I'm, to see if I'm actually like here or just like messing around. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I get it. And last time I waited for like the whole red carpet presentation. I watched everybody come in. I took pictures, and
Hmm.
partially because Jason Reitman was there last time, so I actually knew someone who was going to be there. And this time they didn't have anybody from Armageddon Time. They didn't have anybody who I really knew from like any of the bigger films going on. So I feel bad because I want to support these young independent filmmakers too, but I don't necessarily care to see them walk in on the red carpet and get their
Right.
picture taken by the Denver Post. So yeah,
Just
so
watch a
this
bunch of
time,
strangers.
yeah, yeah. So this time I just walked straight in, and they have this like little reception going on in the lobby, and yeah,
Yeah.
it is fascinating. I like it was great people watching, which I think would be really fun if we made it there together.
It looked like a
to,
high end, almost like a high end, high class like place, like where
yeah,
important people would be,
I mean it
you
was the
know.
opera house, so even
Yeah.
so everyone was like pretty much dressed up. They had all the waiters walking around with little food on trays, and then they had free alcohol too, not cocktails. You can get free beer or wine, which was
Right.
nice. So I went with Coors Light. I wanted to sort of still embody my like low classness of this.
Just the look at least.
Yeah, because everybody else seemed to have fancier drinks or wine or something. So and I'm just wearing like a bomber jacket and a t-shirt, so
I'm
I
with
wanted
the
to fit the
Cinnabums.
mold.
We drink Coors
Yeah,
Light and Bush
we
Light.
drink Bush Light, man. Yeah, that's so. I wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to stay true to
Should have been drinking a
character.
yerba mate at
Yeah,
the.
actually, yeah. If only they had yerba mate, then I for sure would have got that.
But I really
Uh,
don't know what you would have done with all that energy if you.
uh, I'd have been wired. Yeah, but yeah. So then I pretty much just walked around the lobby and just observed people, and uh, I don't know if it was just me because I was slightly underdressed, but there were a lot of people that would just sort of like do this thing where they just like are like it looks like they're in conversation with someone, but they'll so easily just like look over and like glance at whoever's walking by, where it's almost like they're kind of it felt like there was a lot of like judgmental people.
Uh-huh.
And maybe that was just me because I wanted to kind of make fun of them in my head. But yeah, it seemed like a lot of people who thought they were very important, a lot of older people dressed very very nice, and there were even a few older guys with way too young of girlfriends
Really?
with a lot of plastic surgery that yeah,
So,
that felt like an LA thing kind of. But
right, yeah, it's
yeah.
like LA came to Denver. So, but
Yeah.
like, who are these people? Like, why do they?
Right.
Why do they? You said no one there really is from the movies actually there.
Yeah,
So, like, why does everyone give a shit? Like, why? Is it
that's what
just
I
the
don't.
red carpet element? Is it that the fact that it's at the opera house? Like, where are these people coming from?
So I think a lot of them are members of the film society in Denver who, I think are a little bit more, I don't know, bougie is the word. Slightly more pretentious. But so there's definitely those people that have like their member lanyards on. And there were plenty of people that had lanyards that said like filmmaker on it or producer, something.
Uh,
So they're associated with other films, but I don't think there was anybody actually from Armageddon Time, anybody associated with the movie there, which is kind of a
right.
bummer because
That is.
when I saw the Jason Reitman movie, Front Runner, which I don't think anybody saw that year besides the people in that room.
I didn't. Yeah.
But Jason Reitman like introduced the film, so that was at least cool. Like the director's here to introduce it, but at this one, the CEO of Denver Film introduced it, and I was like, "Who cares? I don't care about you," And he even gave like this long speech in the beginning. He's like, "My parents are here," and I was kind of, I don't know, getting a little cranky with just the whole like spectacle of it. I was just like, I don't care to listen to. It's like I just wanted to get on with the movie. I didn't really care to hear from the
Right. Right.
CEO of the film society. But yeah. Then after a little bit of walking around, seeing people mingling and having a couple of drinks, go in and they're super strict. Took like a front row seat of the back section where they have like a little ledge. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
those seats because you can always set your
Yeah.
drink down
They
on the
didn't let
ledge
you
in
set
front
the
of you.
drink down on the ledge.
Had my drink there. This woman comes up to me and she's like, "Please, nothing on the ledge, sir." And I was like, "Okay." So I like took it down, and then like 10 minutes later, I just like, it's really tight too, and I just had
Hmm.
I had my one leg resting on my knee, and my foot was just like ever so little bit touching the railing that was above the ledge, just like barely touching. I had like a toe on it, and she comes and like taps on the railing, and she's like, Please put your foot down." And I was like, "Oh my god." All right. And then after the movie starts, a couple seats next to me on the end is this woman who works for the film festival. She comes in and she has like all these papers and like all this like stuff that she's like collected over the night that she has to like organize, and she sets it all across this ledge the whole time, and the woman doesn't say a single word to her.
Yeah, because she's
um
clearly
yeah.
partly running the show. Yeah.
So I was just trying to, this is like the point of the night where I was just trying to find ways to get annoyed
Right.
by certain
Well, I'll tell you what, man,
fanciness. Yeah.
that definitely it all sounds like show business to me. It sounds like
Yeah.
a lot of BS I've had to deal with where people are stressed about stupid things, and
Hmm.
there's a very much a hierarchy, and people are very afraid of displeasing people with more money, and are very much kissing up to everyone who is in a higher position because they're trying to climb everything. Yeah, it just sounds like the
Yeah.
industry to me. Sounds
Yeah.
like you were
Yeah.
at the right place, John.
I was trying to be the antidote to that, to that sort of vibe, I guess, if you
It's funny
will.
though that like you notice though so much of it when you're just like supposed to be a guest, there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of people there aren't necessarily, I think they take it very seriously. And even just, the film society members that go, all they do is they just like donate money, and then
Hmm.
get to become a member. And
Yeah,
yeah, I feel
I
like
wonder if
they
those are
take it
like one
very seriously.
percenters in Denver or something like that, and they just need something like that to,
Yeah.
throw their money into and like make themselves feel good, and they're probably also passionate about film societies, I guess, and then that's
Yeah.
their night, to bouge it up.
But yeah, I mean, the movie was great. I thought it was like Ad Astra, I wish I remembered more of Ad Astra because I only watched it the one time, but loved it. But it has a lot to do with family. It's a family story. This one
Right.
much more small scale, not just because it's on Earth and not in space, but
Yeah.
yeah, it just takes place in Manhattan with this Jewish family, and it's got Anthony Hopkins, Jeremy Strong, Anne Hathaway, and then the main character is this young kid, Banks Repetta, who he was actually in The Black Phone, the Ethan Hawke movie from earlier this
Oh.
year. Yeah, he was great in this too, and it's very much a story of being a kid and feeling sort of lost in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
having all these ambitious dreams and kind of being shut down by your family. But then Anthony Hopkins is the grandpa who's he's over it, he's seen it all, and he's like the ray of light in his life to like tell him to like go for his dreams and to forget what anybody else says. So yeah, it's a really nice like grounded story, and also has to do with some racial issues of this time in the US, but it's not in like a cheesy Hollywood way like Green Book or something like that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
um it's a real, like it felt very authentic, as something that would happen, and conflict between this kid's black friend and his own like family and their beliefs. And not that the family is necessarily bad people, but that they aren't really progressive enough in their views to do something to help out someone who's not in a good situation, someone, a minority who's in a bad situation compared to them. So yeah, it's definitely a very like real story. But yeah, I liked Armageddon Time a
Cool.
lot. So
Cool.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it'll
And,
definitely be an Oscar, a
contender.
movie, yeah, an Oscar contender when that comes around.
Yeah. I really want to watch this. I like James Gray, and after you named the cast, I was like, whoa, so definitely want to see it. I've been very out of touch with what movies are coming out and stuff like that. So I have been trying to watch more trailers. I've only watched like 3. I need to see more,
Hey,
but
that's still more. Yeah.
I watched that new Knives Out trailer
Mhm.
for the Knives Out sequel, and that shit got me hyped, man. I like the new cast. I like that Daniel Craig is back, and yeah, I like how it's a there is a sequel. I like how it's kind of ongoing, and the world of it feels similar to the first one.
Yeah.
Because I think the world in the first one is distinct enough for you to carry it on for sure. So definitely like the new what I've seen from the new Knives Out. I like Edward Norton as a cast member in it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too. Seeing Knives Out in the theater was like a really awesome experience, because that was like the first time in a while that people going to a theater and people were like really invested in it, and it was like enjoyable to watch as a community of people just reacting to like the funny things, or people shouting something out during it. Yeah, I don't know why, it was a really great theater experience, so I'm excited to see it in theaters, because I know it's going to be like on Netflix at a certain point, but it'll be in theaters for
Yeah.
like a week. So
Oh,
yeah.
really? Damn, it's one
Yeah.
of those.
So
Was
it'll be
Knives
in
Out the
theaters but really
same?
short. No, I think that had a longer run. I don't think that had any like streaming deal.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting move by Ryan Johnson.
Yeah.
But yeah, so since I couldn't remember the rest of the cast before, everyone else, it's Dave Batista, Janelle Monáe, Kate Hudson, Catherine Hahn, which I'm especially excited about. I love Catherine Hahn.
She's
Um,
huge right now.
yeah, Leslie Odom Jr. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. The other trailer I saw, it was for the the Darren Aronofsky movie. You know what
Oh, is
I'm
that The
talking
Whale?
about? The Whale, yes.
That's also at
Where
the film festival, but I didn't get a chance to see it.
that looks kind of good to me. Yeah, or at least like they're very immersive lead performance, and just character study, and yeah, it may be a little different than I've seen him do in the past, but yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I like that
Uh,
Brendan Fraser is kind of having a little comeback
yeah,
now.
no, he looks like he's going all in with that for
Yeah.
sure.
And Darren Aronofsky is a guy who I don't love everything that he's done, but I always find them interesting. I feel
Yeah,
like he
no,
does something interesting enough, even if I don't love it at the end of the day, but it's
no, yeah, definitely good
still
to
worth
have on the
seeing.
radar, I'd
Hmm.
say. And then there was one more trailer. It was for a documentary by Jonah Hill, that comes out on
I heard about
Netflix,
that.
I believe, possibly on Monday. God, man, I gotta search something else because I'm Letterboxd is just not doing it right now.
I remember hearing something about a Jonah Hill movie coming out.
Uh,
Stutz.
yes. All right.
Therapy documentary.
Stutz. Yeah, it's basically Jonah Hill. I watched the trailer. It's basically Jonah Hill interviewing his therapist.
Oh,
And it's it does not look good at all. It looks really dumb.
really?
Uh yes, it looks super dumb. The Jonah Hill movie Stud. Is that it? No, man, it's
It's like a
not it.
Stutz. Close. Oh, it's
Studs.
Stutz. That's the name of his psychiatrist.
Right. Yeah. So the movie
The
star.
I have this article up that just says Phil Stutz says it best. This is either the greatest documentary ever made or the worst.
Yeah,
I wonder what he means. I have no
that's a
idea.
thing in the trailer.
Oh, okay.
After it kind of just gives you the general idea of what the documentary is going to be about, Stutz goes like, "This is either going to be the greatest documentary or the worst," and you hear Jonah in the background just like laughing, and I just kind of like went like, well, that sums this up perfectly, like what this is like. Cause yeah, I did not really for any second of this trailer think, wow, thank God this is coming out. Like we need this, I did not think it at all. And I think Jonah Hill he has been in a weird position for too long. Well, he's been in a weird place for a long time, but he's been in a weird position in the industry where he kind of just he's given these passes to direct things and really do whatever he wants at all. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for the guy who's a guy or girl or they who's like, I want to do something that's the most personal like thing to me. I want to do something that's about me, blah blah blah. I'm all for that. But mid 90s was not good. Mid 90s is not good, and in mid 90s is kind of, in my opinion, a little bit of a phony piece of work. And maybe like, I'm sure is about him in a lot of ways and in some ways, but it almost feels like more like, oh, I want this to be me rather than that's actually who
Yeah.
he is. You know what I mean? And like if you watch interviews with Jonah Hill nowadays, say if he's on Jimmy Fallon, which I'll for some reason I always tune into the Jonah Hill interviews on Jimmy Fallon these past 5 years or whatever. And you know how Jimmy is. He's so nice to every guest and blah blah blah. And uh
Yeah,
and
doing all that. Yeah.
Jonah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought you were actually like
Oh,
you
no.
laughing, but so you actually kind of
Yeah, he
made me
always like does
feel.
that. Like,
You made me feel like that I was on Fallon. Like I was
ah,
like, wow,
yeah.
I'm killing it right now. But Jonah, kind of, Jonah is clearly not the same Jonah. You know what I mean? Like all the fame and everything that he has, that all the like love that everyone's like, I love Jonah Hill, you know, that everyone has had and still does have. That guy is not there anymore. Especially when you see him being interviewed, he's got blonde hair. He looks like a surfer dude, and he speaks like he's like I don't know, almost like he's Kanye West or something like that, you know? Like he not like he says very
Controversial
controversial
stuff.
things. He
Yeah.
doesn't really say that, but he almost says things like, you know, like I want to like break the fabric of how we really think about things like all the time, and he's always like talking like that, like, oh, I'm thinking in so out of the box ways, you know, blah blah blah. And he also, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if we talked about this when we were talking about Don't Look Up, but we probably were. But he had all those stories where about being on the Don't Look Up set, where he's like, I was telling Marilyn that she's the goat. You know, he had this story, this stupid anecdote that he told on pretty much everything that he went on. And I watched all the videos. I watched the daytime talk shows, Fallon, you know, podcasts, like all the bullshit that you have to do for pressing a movie of that size. And every single one, he has the same anecdote. Where he's like, I called what's her name again? Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
Yeah, Meryl Streep. I called Meryl Streep the goat. And then the next part of the anecdote is Meryl Streep was going around set being like, Jonah Hill, for some reason, keeps calling me a goat. And then Jonah Hill has to say, no, Meryl, it means greatest of all time. And then that's like this stupid anecdote that they told through to like everybody, you know?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but anyway, that's like, I don't know, Jonah has this very like, I don't know, like I'm a fashion hip hop guy now. It's really weird. And it's almost like he wants to, I don't know, it like good for him for expressing himself the right way, but it's not like I don't find it relatable at all. And so maybe on his end, in his mind, he's like, wow, I finally found who I am, you know, blah, blah, blah. But for all of us, we're all kind of like, wow, I miss the old Jonah Hill so much, you know,
Yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say Jonah fell off, but we definitely all are missing the way Jonah Hill used to be. Um, so circling back to the documentary, it is Jonah interviewing the therapist who he has spent so much time with that has gotten him to the place he currently is. Um, and along with all the other things I think about Jonah, considering this is also continuing to be if it's Jonah's therapist and he's interviewing him, this is also must be a very much a study of Jonah as well. Because they
Yeah.
also, the doc in the preview has pictures of Jonah looking like when he was at his worst, you know, like really fat, like when he was like pre movie star days and stuff like that. And I think he has all this insecurity from childhood of, you know, that probably has a lot to do with being overweight, I'm sure too,
Hmm.
and being stuck in that cycle. But I just couldn't help but think that this documentary looks like such an unoriginal, just like obvious one note piece of content, um, that no one really asked for, that isn't like and like don't get me wrong, like I'm not anti therapy at all, you know, like I've been to therapy and I should probably go back to therapy eventually. But for Jonah Hill to be like doing it this directly, and for it to be about his career and be like, I'm gonna like uh, interview your like you really interview your therapist, like
Yeah.
what? You know, like maybe his therapist is that interesting, but I don't know. I think therapy to me, that's like a private thing, and that's like your own world and stuff like that. And I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like a super original idea to be like, whoa, whoa, why don't I interview my therapist who's helped me so much? It's like, like that's, like that's such an intimate, like different, unique world. It's like no one does that, like, but it's like no one does that for a reason because like, I don't know, that is like a separate thing. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah.
is to me. I just think it's kind of a cringe like premise to be like, wow, I'm gonna do this really like out there thing and interview my therapist, and I'm pretty sure it's in black and white, of course, too.
Yeah, I see some of the stills from
Um,
it, and yeah, I feel like that's
yeah,
kind of a weird choice.
yeah, and he clearly seems to have very good intentions behind it, and he's also trying to share like some of his mental health struggles and stuff like that, which I'm
Hmm.
also all for. But I don't know, just this trailer kind of just didn't feel super original to me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, therapy is definitely like a personal thing that everybody talks about different things when they go to therapy, like their own things. It's usually that's like what you got to work out as your own, everyone I don't know, I've watched these videos on, I think it's called dosha, which is this thing where like when psychiatrists go to school, they basically learn how to treat like depression, anxiety, mental illness in general, but not like the individual person. So
Right.
that's right where I think therapy is like for
They have
the
they have
individual.
very general ideas and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So this is maybe more like catered towards what Jonah needs. And yeah, it seems very
That's what it seems
self-indulgent.
like because the description says progressively worsening panic to follow Hill and his therapist as he is actually no, wait, they keep it general in this, never mind, it's not about, no, wait, no, they do progressively worsening anxiety attacks related to movie promotion that have turned his
Hmm.
dream job into a nightmare. Okay, so there we go. That is directly about like Jonah. So it's like basically it's, oh, these are the mental health struggles that I had and all the problems I dealt with during the career that I always wanted, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. I mean, this could end up just being fine. And in ways, mid 90s is fine. I just kind of like being hard on it too. But I doubt this is gonna be like, whoa, did you see Stutz? Like changed my life. Like no one's gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that. Like
Yeah, it's not gonna break any new ground on mental illness that hasn't already been talked about. Well, that's where I feel like I obviously think we both are advocates for mental health and having good mental health, but it's also kind of like trendy right now. That's almost what this feels
take
like. It's
care,
kind of
hey,
like,
hey, take care of your mental health,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
guys.
We're always saying that. Yeah. I feel like this is like kind of self-indulgent of like, oh, mental health is trendy right now, so let me talk to my therapist about my stuff. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's
For instance, I think like in the NBA, like Kevin Love had to like he opened up about his mental health struggles, and I think he did a whole press release thing and stuff like that. This isn't the same at all. This isn't the same at all, but I don't know. I feel like to say like and say someone like Kevin Love's position or Jonah Hill's position, where you're an actor, you're a basketball player, you're a male. I don't think it's like that different to speak up about mental health, at least for me. I don't know.
yeah.
I think it may be like a social norm that from the past where they felt like, oh, I'm too scared to open about my mental health, blah blah blah, and that's why now I'm doing this. I'm doing this whole thing for me to open up about my mental health when it's like it really wasn't that big of a deal if you opened up about your mental health. Like you don't have to like worry
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's like over like people are gonna be supportive, especially nowadays. Yeah, it's
Right? Everyone is. Everyone.
yeah.
All you have to do is go up to someone and be like, I'm worried about my mental health.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, I get it.
If you go on Twitter, it's literally all people talking about how shitty their mental health is, or they'll say like
Right.
men will literally do this instead of will literally watch Jonah Hill's documentary instead of going to therapy themselves. It's all stuff about like I feel like that's all I see on social media
Everyone's
is
like,
talking
my
about therapy.
anxiety, this makes my anxiety feel like
Yeah.
this, blah, blah, blah. It's more open in the air than ever.
Yeah, it is kind of self-indulgent when it's like these people with big platforms who I think are trying to make it like I'm trying to give a voice to the voiceless when it's really like
Exactly,
we're
exactly.
all talking about this already. We just don't have press releases and stuff like that. We don't have there's not a big marketing
Right. I
campaign
mean, yeah,
behind
there's
our
online therapy, there's podcasts that are like self-help things. Like everyone's,
Mhm. We all need
yeah.
help right now. The world needs a psychiatrist. So yeah, it's not
Right.
yeah. It's definitely not like yeah, something new or unique that he's bringing to the table.
Right. Yeah, like there's like a Buddhist statue in the trailer and stuff like that. And it actually looks like the cinematography is like really good, but at the same time, and like if this was good, I'd be happy about it. I'm not like rooting against it. It's just like you'll have to like let me know when you see the trailer. If but like it
Hmm.
was when the second I saw it, I was like, oh, like here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll definitely watch it because I'm just like interested enough to see it.
Okay,
Huh.
I can talk since you talked about the film fest and you talked about uh the James Gray flick. Um I can talk about a movie I watched. We were talking about being done with horror, but I have a horror movie to bring up.
Ooh.
Yeah, that I watched on Saturday. I watched Barbarian on Saturday,
Oh, nice.
and I did not really know anything about Barbarian, except that I should watch it, and that people are talking about it, and that's supposed to be good, and that also Justin Long was in it. We were talking last month about fear and anxiety and all the like things that actually scare you, and being alone and the idea of like something being over your shoulder and blah blah blah. So I'll bring that back just for this movie, because I did not know anything about this movie, and I was very high and very scared when I was watching this movie. I did not know what to expect at all from this movie. Like I sort of got the like from scene one, I sort of got the idea of the structure, you know, and I've definitely thought that like Bill Skarsgård was like I was like, oh man, this guy seems like the villain, like the
Totally,
villain,
yeah.
blah blah blah. But then once I went, I went in the journey into the basement, and it got dark, and everything went down there. I was like so scared, like fucking covering my ears because I'm like alone in here, and I'm just like not knowing what's happening. And then everything starts happening, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like really fucking scary. Like,
Yeah, that it got real. I mean, I thought what was great about it in the beginning was all the suspense of like clearly
right.
we might playfully be spoiling part of this if you haven't seen it. But yeah, when like so clearly seems that Bill Skarsgård is going to be yeah, I guess the villain or you would say or the scary guy, which he is good at doing. Um and
Yeah,
I
or
felt
the
like that was
adversary, at least the
adversary.
adversary.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
And
it's weird. The weird thing is that she's staying with this random guy. That's
yeah.
what's weird about this.
And there was just a weird like it was weird how they kind of had good like chemistry together. And But
Right.
then it felt like there was something off, like almost like it was too good to be true that he was this like nice of a guy.
Right.
So
Oh,
I
for
thought that was like a
sure.
good misdirection in the
When he
beginning to
seemed
like,
like very weird and very lonely, and he had a lot of Norman Bates vibes to him.
yep,
Like, please have a drink with me. Blah
yeah,
blah blah. I'm clearly so lonely. And I thought a lot of this movie had a lot of psycho things going on. Just a lot
yeah,
of like people all ending up at the same place, but just from different, but they're just coming from different places, like different motivations, all revolving around this creepy house, and you not really entirely knowing what's going on, not knowing the backstory behind any of this, and it all like kind of falls into place in the end of it. Yeah, I thought it was so good. And yeah, so creepy, and but so fun too. It's such a fun time.
yeah, yeah. It really was. This is another. It was directed by Zach Krieger, it's another sketch comedy guy leaving comedy to do a horror movie.
Oh,
Um,
okay, cool. I mean,
yeah,
I think he did a good job. Like all the shots of like the tunnel specifically are just masterfully, that whole sequence with the tunnel, everything in there is just masterfully done, restricting your vision and just putting
yeah.
you on the edge of your seat during all of that. The
Like that
shots,
tape
like,
measure scene
yeah, the
in the
Tamer where
tunnel.
Justin Long is so good. It's
That was
so
really
good.
creative. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so good. You're like, I was like laughing and terrified at the same time during that. The shots like from the basement that are like into the tunnel are really good, where you can like see them, like, and it's just like the very long shots. Those were all very good. Yeah, yeah, just really liked Barbarian.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Um, and I know we've talked about. I think we really like Justin Long.
Oh
We
yeah,
both do. Yeah, we talked
yeah,
about that on our accepted
yeah. It was
episode.
great to see him back in a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he was great at being a real douche in this.
Right, right,
Um,
right. Yeah, it's so
yeah,
funny how he when he finds the tunnel, he's immediately like, how much does that add to the property value? And
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
so funny how when he doesn't know what's going on, and then he finds the things down in the tunnel, he's like, what? How could this be? I lived here. I've lived
yeah,
here for 7 years. Which is so ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. That is. I thought it was good how I don't know, his character like brought a lot of like humor to it, so it was like it was funnier. I guess it added lightness to it, so it wasn't just
Oh no,
completely
you need it. You
miserable. And
you
yeah,
needed that. You needed that. Yeah.
yeah, because that was a good transition, sort of when we first go down to the tunnel, and then it cuts to like LA, and he's
Right.
in
Clearly a guy with
some.
his head up his ass, and
Yeah, it was such a
um
weird transition. Like I like how it didn't really I don't know, just like tell you everything. It just like, okay, we're going here, and you're gonna find out
right,
like
right, right.
later why we went here. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I mean, like it's that like that psycho thing, like you see, Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, get killed in that in the shower, and then the next group of people comes, like the detective, then he gets
yeah,
killed on the stairs. Now here comes the next group of people, they're all just coming to this house for various reasons.
yeah.
Yeah, it's Barbarian.
Barbarian, yeah.
You've got one to bring up next. I've got one more after.
Yeah. I'll yeah, you know what? I'll just go through quick the other two movies I saw. I don't have a ton to say about either of them at the film festival. Unfortunately, I this is just like randomly happened to be busy during the film festival, so I couldn't see all that much, but I tried to plan it out to see. I wanted to see the late night shorts, because we had
Oh
such a great
yes,
time
that's a
at that.
classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that because we had, speaking of weather, we had like an ice storm that
Oh,
day, and it was
did they
just
cancel the late night shorts, or you decided
I
it was
didn't
not
go.
worth it?
Yeah, there was on the road that I take pretty much the entire way there. There was 100 car pile up that day, so I was like,
Ooh.
yeah, I'm just not gonna go. uh, so instead, the next day I saw two movies. One, which is a Hong Sang So film,
Oh,
which
I love. Yeah, I saw you saw that. I love Hong Sang So. Yeah,
this is my
that's great that you
first.
saw that.
Yeah, this is my first movie of his.
Yeah, I love
Um,
Hong Sang So.
so I think I would have been better prepared for this had I been more familiar with his work. Because this was very like very low key, low budget. There's like
Yeah.
4 locations,
Yep,
and
that's
like,
him. That's what he
okay,
does.
that's
Yeah,
I
he
tried to look him
holds
up after,
shots
and
for a long period of
yeah.
time. Everyone's very existential and very contemplative during it, and
Oh
it's
wow, yeah.
very artsy, and everyone's drinking sake, and someone's either an aspiring filmmaker, actress, or artist, and that's every single one of them. Yeah, they're great, you know.
You literally just described this
The
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
Sounds like I've seen it already. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, because it's about a novelist who who leaves Seoul, the
Right.
bustling city, to kind of reconnect with uh a colleague who she's lost touch with, and then she ends up bumping into this director who she's familiar with, and
Yeah.
he's a big fan of her work, and then bumping
Hmm.
into an actor
Right.
that they both know, and
Hmm.
she wants to make a short film, and so it has a lot to do with existential worries, and
Yeah.
her worrying about her self-worth as an artist,
Yeah.
and a lot of them, yeah, it's a lot of long shots, long takes, long conversations. um so
Right.
we'll say it was a little hard for me to get into at first, and I think it doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the film, but I was just losing focus and daydreaming a lot during it, and I think maybe if I
It,
was
it
at
kind of
home and
it kind of does that a little bit though. I
yeah.
think that's somewhat of the effect that
Hmm.
that they have, you know.
Yeah, I
Um
can imagine.
yeah, but yeah, they kind of remind me his films remind me of like worst person in the world a little bit, and like a little like Jarmusch and stuff like that, because Jarmusch, because they're so chill,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
calm and soothing, but also like worst person in the world, everyone in them is like has a lot of angst and like is young and is creative and doesn't really know what to do with their life, you know.
yeah, yeah, definitely. This one was for sure more centered on her, on like this novelist, and sort of looking back on her work, and wanting to do something new.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found it. I mean, I really liked the. It was almost therapeutic just watching someone
Yeah.
go through an existential crisis, because yeah, I'm sure everyone in
Yeah.
the theater, including myself, has something that is just eating away at us, just like it was with her. Um, and yeah, it was super chill and laid back. They're just in this
Yeah.
like the first scene, they're just in this like independent bookstore drinking coffee and tea,
Right.
and it's
Sounds
like,
about
man, I
right.
want to be there. I want to
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
later they're drinking sake in the same place.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was a nice movie. I definitely want to check out his other films now too.
Yeah. I would recommend Right Now Wrong Then is probably the best, one of the best ones I've seen. Also On the Beach at Night Alone is very good too.
Cool, I'm gonna add those to my list.
Yeah, I like Kong Sang Soo. They're my vibe for sure. I like them a lot. And
It
going
seems like
back
he
to what you're
uses the same character or the same
same
actors.
actress.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, they're always like an artist and stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah, and they're like very philosophical, and in the I don't know, you just like feel like when you're watching them like, wow, I'm a very cultured guy, you know, like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like
I felt that way, yeah.
it feels like you're into what is it, like Korean cinema, like because you're like watching these people, and like it's Korean cinema, but that's also like centered on characters that are into Korean cinema, you know. And so
Yeah.
you're like in that world, you know, and you're like, wow, in Korea, like everyone's like aspiring to be a director and stuff like that, and you know, like, but yeah, and then go back to what you're saying about it being therapeutic, and I do get that, and that kind of brings me back to Stutz real quick, because it's like movies are like at their best, like there's entertainment to me, and then there's therapeutic, you know, that's both
Yeah.
sides to me for movies. And I think like I love it, especially when movies are therapeutic. They've been very therapeutic for me, and like they've been so therapeutic. So when I see a film like Stutz coming out where they're like, wow, this movie for you, like, is gonna be like therapeutic. I'm interviewing my therapist. Like, come on, like that's just
Yeah.
so ridiculous. Like, come on, think of something better than that. You know, like I get it, you're trying to like make something that's therapeutic, but like don't interview your therapist. Like, do better than that. Like, you're in the industry, like, you know,
Yeah.
you're a
I'd rather
professional.
I'd rather watch something that makes me feel like I've just finished a really good therapy session, not something that's like trying to give me
Yeah, I
therapy
don't know,
through
watching
someone else.
a
Yeah.
therapy session, you know what I
Yeah, I don't want to
mean?
watch someone
Like,
else's. Yeah.
I don't care about the Hollywood elites therapy sessions. Like, I know a lot of them go to therapy. I don't want to see that. Like, I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't like, I think that's for them, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So anyways, back to I've once again dispelled Jonah Hill's project.
All roads lead back to Stutz.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you saw a Hong Sang-soo film. That's
Yeah.
very, it's good for the soul to watch Hong Sang-soo, I think.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my film that I watched. It's another 2022 movie, and a movie that we have talked about, but I don't think either of us had seen till now. I watched Don't Worry, Darling, right before uh, recording this.
Nice. I saw that
The
it's on HBO Max now. I haven't
Yeah, so I
seen it
took
yet.
took the opportunity, and we've, you know, after all the press release and all the shit that's been going down, I get to, you know, finally like see what's behind it. Everyone knows everything that's gone down, so it's like, all right, what is this movie about? How is this movie? So I've been able to see the movie, and you know, I'm kind of with everybody else on it. Everyone really doesn't like it that much,
Yeah.
and I didn't really like it either. I'm not like so anti this movie necessarily. I'm almost like I was a little disappointed on because I like the, you know, the concept, like, and I do like everyone in the movie, and I'm not, you know, it'd be cool if Olivia Wilde made another good movie, I thought too.
Mhm.
There certainly is, I will say. There's a lot of dumb shit in this movie. There were a lot of moments where I was like, okay, this is definitely a dumb scene. But there is also a lot where I'm like, dang, dude, I wish like this they did well in other things so that this could work, because I do think it is kind of a cool idea. The concept is kind of cool. Like I did when I saw the trailer, I thought, hey, that could be cool. You know, like I
Mhm.
like the idea of a dystopian 50s society that is like all about control. Like there's
Yeah.
something in there. There's something in there for me if it's done right. If it's done right.
Yeah.
This is very not subtle of a movie. It's very direct, and overall just does not totally work. does not really work, and it doesn't have a lot to explore, um, really. And I think the plot, as it reveals itself, it becomes, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's this, when like the plot starts to unfold, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's that, and then now it's that. That's kind of predictable, you know what I mean? And also just kind of obvious, and yeah, not that great. Um and it's a shame that, you got like Chris Pine, where Chris Pines kind of plays the villain in this, almost like, if you will, the Ed Harris of the Truman Show for this movie, but
Huh.
not on the same level at all. And it's a shame because Chris Pine is the shit, and he almost at times is good in this, where I'm like, wow, Pine is like so good right now, but like what he's like in the middle of is not good, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
I love Florence Pugh in this, even though the movie is not good. So it's just a shame that there's things like that going for it. I will say Olivia Wilde, when she is in this, I do not like her in it.
Wait, she's in it?
Yeah, I know she has a
Oh,
little role. She's one of the women of this society, and I don't really
know
like
that.
her in it. I did not like her in this, and I don't know. Just that's very subjective. I don't really have much reasoning behind it. I just didn't like her in it. Um, Harry Styles, when he is acting alongside Florence Pugh, you can see how one is at the top of their profession and one is trying to be in a different profession. You can see that he's definitely trying to act. Alongside of that, I don't really know. I mean, Nick Kroll's in it, which is kind of funny. Like, there's some intricate shots of like these 50s party scenes, and then on the side you just see Nick Kroll. Like, it's almost as if, you know how like in a Scorsese movie you're like following one character walk through, or you're like going through an entire area of wise guys or whatever,
Yeah.
stockbrokers or whatever, and
Oh
then you
yeah.
see one person go like, oh yeah, with a drink, blah blah blah, and talking to a bunch of people, and like, it's very like that Scorsese camera movement documentary style that he's got. She kind of does that in this, and then you see in the middle of these takes, these like longer takes, there's like Nick Kroll like in this 50s thing. It's kind of funny. But yeah, again, too bad that Nick Kroll's in something that's like this, that's not good. So,
Ugh.
you know, not like excruciating, but also just for the amount of hype and the amount you hear about it, and the fact that it has this big of a cast, it's like, just, yeah, this movie is just so whatever. And like, I fell asleep during it once, and I before having to restart it. I think that's totally understandable of me.
I haven't heard like anything good about it, but I still really want to see it just because I did really want to see it after seeing the trailer. It looked really
Yeah,
interesting. And yeah, and now
yeah.
there's just so much buzz about it for so many different reasons.
Well, that's Don't Worry, Darling. I think
We
that's
can put
good.
yeah, cool.
Hopefully. Hopefully there's some continuity with there.
If not, it'll
Um
be funny. Yeah. Oh, were you gonna
so
say it?
no, I guess no, we're moving on.
Oh, okay.
I did just say
Oh,
it.
okay. Gotcha.
We got it. It's one and done. That's a
Just one
take.
take. All right, I'm just gonna round mine out quick. I don't have much to say about this one other than I wanted to see something at the festival where the actual like filmmaker was there, and Alex Winter, who I'm not sure if how familiar people are with his name, but he's Bill from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the not Keanu
Ah,
guy. Who's also now he doesn't act as much, but he's directed some movies. He directed this movie called Freaked in like the 90s, and he's done some documentaries recently. Frank Zappa was one that he did a few years ago. And so he was going to be there, and he was also on, which we've talked about, Office Hours with Tim Heidecker recently.
right.
And I thought he was a great guest. He seems super smart and funny, and nice. So I was
Cool.
like, oh,
So
this will be
you've been following him around. Like he's been in your world a little bit
yeah,
recently.
yeah. And I'm not the biggest Bill and Ted fan.
Me neither.
I like it, but it doesn't have like a soft spot in my heart or anything. I
Doesn't
didn't
do anything for me.
yeah, I didn't grow up with it or anything. So um but yeah, he has this new documentary called The YouTube Effect out, which is basically about how YouTube started and became what it is now. And it has a lot to do with just how it has influenced people in certain ways. Like the insurrection and other just political things, while also about how it's influenced people's, like a shooter, like a YouTuber
Right.
who like ended up killing some people. Just sort of how like the influence of YouTube and just like social media really in general has had such a like huge influence on our society in such a short amount of time. Yeah, and it was solid. It wasn't anything like groundbreaking or new. I think especially if you're I don't know, people of our age who we kind of grew up when YouTube like became what it is, and we've been there along the journey the whole way. It wasn't anything
Hmm.
too new, but it was a nice sort of summary of the past almost 20 years now. And
Hmm.
afterwards there was a Q&A, and
Yeah.
one woman said she was triggered by it because,
What?
and this was just a classic case of someone making it about themselves and trying to sound morally superior. She was like,
Right.
I work, I'm very liberal leaning, and I work in a lot of anti-Semitic groups, but I was very triggered by this, that this was talking all about how it's radicalized the far right, but doesn't also say how it radicalizes the far left. And this was very triggering to me on how it just seemed like it was just very anti-Trump, and that was the whole agenda. And there's like one little small part about Trump and like the insurrection, and that's it. But she said she was triggered by it. I don't know what she means triggered by. She doesn't have any past trauma of being like at the insurrection or something. I don't know, but she
Right.
said that, and so she was like, I'm wondering why you didn't go into the other side of it. And then he just goes, okay, and then and that's it. And she was like, I find that to be a very condescending answer. And he was like, I disagree with your agenda or
I
whatever.
reject your
I
hypotheses.
reject your hypothesis. Yeah. And I was like, while she was like rambling on a lot, and while that whole time I was like nervous for what is he how is he going to respond to this woman? Like
Right.
she's like clearly making it about herself, but you still don't want to sound like
Everyone
a
in the room is
dick.
probably like nervous for him. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like how do you even answer this preposterous question?
And he just goes, okay. And then I thought that was like, it was kind of condescending. It for sure was, but also, I mean, you don't want to
What are
like,
you gonna do? And it's
yeah,
probably is so annoying to hear that. Like, it's annoying to hear it. Like, if it's not even your thing.
yeah. And the shitty thing was that was the first question of the Q&A, and he seemed to be in a great mood
And it
before
just,
then.
yeah, it probably
And
ended it.
you
Yeah.
could tell even when people, because I was like, I should ask a question and say like, I love Bill and Ted's or something. I want to make him like feel better that he's like came all this way. But other people would say like, I love the Zapadoc, I love like this that you did. But even with that, you could tell right after that lady started talking about her shit, his mood totally changed. Like it was like,
Oh
fuck
man.
this. He's like, this is
It's
like,
like I'm not gonna be as open anymore. Never
yeah.
mind.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of I mean, it was fun to be at something that had a little bit of like conflict.
Right,
But
right.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot to say about
People are
the
so
documentary itself,
nuts.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Q and A's
Q&A
are
on
like
something like
are
that
dumb,
was
I
interesting.
think, like for the most part. In my like I remember we went to the shorts. I'm pretty sure there was some Q&A like on the
Hmm.
shorts, and like
Yeah.
everyone in there is just like early to mid 20s, probably aspiring directors or something like that. And I don't know. There's just not like I just don't remember there being anything like any question or anything where I was like, I don't know, like for the like this was good to say, or like we
Yeah.
needed to talk about this, like how did you come up with that idea, or blah 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 to this.
Yeah.
Like it's like a no, it's like someone in the audience, I don't care about their question, like, and I don't even really in the shorts, I don't really care about seeing the director answer the questions either.
Now, do you remember there was like a weird like baseball short film that it was like it made up some like fictional story of like real baseball players. And like it was by far the worst short film out of all of there, but the director was there, and I remember,
Oh, really? That was the one they interviewed, huh?
yeah,
Okay.
and it's like I feel like I don't remember really, but I feel like the Q&A was just kind of like a dud. Like nobody really had too much to say because I don't think many of us were really interested in it or found it that great.
Yeah, I remember zoning out. I'm pretty sure that whole time, and I remember like not being that impressed with the film.
Hmm.
And like now we see here comes the director of it,
Yeah, it's like, oh gosh.
and and me probably thinking some like selfish thing like, well, if he can make it to here, I could probably do
Yeah.
it, or some shit like that.
Then our Doritos sketch could make it if that could make
Right.
it. That's
That's
totally
one
true
of
about
them.
Q&As. They're not, I don't know. I also don't really
Yeah.
care to hear some random person's question for them
They
most of the
shouldn't
time.
open the questions to the public. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
And for me,
Should have a moderator that
yeah, yeah.
knows what they're doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like I went to I saw the Beach Bum like opening night at the Music Box. Packed house, so packed. Especially cuz Harmony Korine was going to be there for Q&A.
Yeah.
Um and Harmony Korine is like one of my favorite people. Like he really is. And he came out, he's like wearing a sailor cap cuz like it's his beach bum like attire. And they actually, the person they had interview him was this like hilarious guy, like didn't even want to interview him. They like literally like the music box like brought him up, and they like knew he was going to be there, and they kind of just like forced him to interview him. They're like, is this guy here in the
Oh
audience?
my
And he
God.
and he was just like trying not to go up. He's trying not to go up, and he clearly didn't want to do it, but he just went up. He just went up out of like pressure. And like Harmony Korine was like, this is my guy, like whatever his name is, he's a Chicago legend, or something like that. And I don't even know who this guy is, but he was actually kind of funny. It was just kind of funny how he like didn't want to be there, and now all of a sudden he was like stuck in this Q&A. And the Q&A, because of that, the Q&A had like the funniest tone ever. Because it's this guy who is not prepared to ask questions, and so he's just like, there's so much like pauses in between that were hilarious. And like Harmony Korine's already a really funny guy, and so the guy would be like, you used this cinematographer for this, huh? And then Harmony would be like, yeah, he's good. And that's like how it would end. And everyone would just be laughing. But everyone, I got a real kick out of it. I thought it was a great like, interview, just to watch it, was like just as like something that was like really funny and like a surreal thing to watch. But I think a lot of people seemed frustrated by it and actually wanted to have questions. And
Mm.
suddenly the audience just started yelling out questions. And they weren't really interrupting. There wasn't much to interrupt. That was so funny about it. But like all the questions were for the most part like stupid. Like they would ask things like, is Moondog a bad poet or a good poet, or something like that? And then like Harmony's like, I don't know, blah blah blah. And it's just like people were just kind of yelling out questions, and I found it to be slightly obnoxious, just that they were just yelling them out, and that a lot of them weren't really good questions.
Yeah.
Um, not to say that The Beach Bum is the deepest film of all time, but I do think that like they're questions that it's like, okay, clearly you're missing something about what this movie's about. And it's not the deepest movie either, but like, yeah. So that's another Q&A experience that I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, we should not have these like open, volatile, like let every citizen just ask questions. Like it should
No.
not be opened up to everybody.
No. I don't want this to offend any listeners that maybe ask questions at Q&As, but I feel like the people that are really antsy to ask questions at Q&As usually think they're a lot more clever or interesting than they actually are, or think that their question is a little bit more
Right.
meaningful. Yeah, I don't know. Not saying that I have any like good questions waiting in the wings for something like that, but yeah, I think there's a lot of people that just want to hear themselves talk and think that they maybe have something.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they're onto something that nobody else is, or
Right,
whatever.
exactly. Like yeah, people tend to express their creativity through talking about a creative thing, and it's very annoying. I could I could have a whole podcast about that. But
Yeah.
like so let's stop there. But yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah.
We've done a few of these. We're doing another letterbox list. We're kind of like covering one of our letterbox lists. We've done this a couple times, and it's what we like to call here at Cinebums. It's the technical term would be letterbox integration, where we
Yeah.
integrate. Does that sound like a business meeting thing?
Let's talk
Um,
about letterbox integration today.
yeah, it sounds like a PowerPoint presentation, but
Yeah.
that is what we do, letterbox integration. And so after we talk about this list, you will be able to find that list on our letterbox. Yeah, and what we'll probably do, which is what we've done with previous episodes, is we've had a visual aid where you can look at the list as it's unveiled. We haven't really talked about doing that, I guess, but we can if we want.
Yeah. We are now. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the list, and the list is one of mine. It is, and I think I published it on Letterboxd, maybe a year ago, and I've added maybe a couple things here and there to it, but it is my movies that make me want to be better list. So this is a very positive list, and it is as Jonah Hill and his therapist Stutz would say, it is a therapeutic list. Movies are therapy, as we all like to say. And another way to preface this list is actually not really movie related, but it's related to the theme of this list. I was and you might recall this. Let's see if you recall this.
Hmm.
I saw like an Anthony Bourdain quote on Instagram a few months ago. I don't remember all like Instagram posts I see. Like this one just particularly stuck out to me, and I like saved it, blah blah blah. But it's Anthony Bourdain basically saying, he's like, I'm very scared of the lazy hippie inside of me that's ready to jump out or something like that. He's like, I know that any time I want, I can sit around and smoke weed and watch Simpsons episodes, and then 5 years go by, and and then he says like, I've pretty much done that, and those 5 years went by, and now I live my life. I live my life now just in constant reaction to that. And so that was something that's quote has stuck with me so much because it is
Likewise.
very
Yeah.
directly related to my life. When I saw that quote, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly like what I'm doing I'm dealing with right now. And
Yeah. I not to be that guy, but he also adds like to the end of it, like my goal in life is to like outwit that guy inside,
right.
like that
Yeah,
part
he's
of
like,
him that wants to
yeah,
just do
you
that.
can't let the lazy hippie come out or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. And like if anybody had listened to our show 3 years ago, especially pre-pandemic, like you would see how many movies that I had been watching and blah blah blah. And like it is like truth. I was in like a stage of my life where and doing this podcast was, as Jonah Hill and Stutz would like to say, therapeutic.
Yeah.
Because like here's the thing about cinephiles. Cinephiles really truly I hope that like the listeners can like get this. Cinephiles don't have lives, of course. Cinephiles live through watching movies. They watch a movie a day, sometimes two movies a day. And a lot of the times these people don't necessarily have a platform such as this to be like, oh my God, I watched movies all week. Here now I can talk about it. It's like a directly related thing. A lot of them don't do that necessarily, so they're just left to sit with the fact that they just watched movies. Um, I don't really know where I was going with that, but I guess I was just saying that I was like happy to be doing that back then when I was in the middle of my lazy hippie days. But I had those lazy hippie days that Bourdain is talking about where my goal was that. Like, and I still have that, like, I definitely have that part of me that is motivated to do that. If anything, I work very hard now, not just because I'm scared of the fact that, yes, those years went by, but also because I hope that I am working to the point to where I can do that again. Like, that I can like, wow, I just worked so hard. Now I can, watch The Simpsons again all the time.
Yeah.
That exact
You can
thing.
do it and not feel guilty.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. If anything, I can work so hard that I can be like, wow, I deserve the break to do that again.
Hmm.
So I guess I bring that exact quote up because part of growing up, part of adulthood. Everyone has this, but especially I've had it. You have these evolving moments where you reflect, and you look back on things and you're like, wow, that's what I did, during that time. That's how I decided to go about my life, blah, blah, blah. And you realize, oh, that was wrong of you. You shouldn't have done that. And, like you should do that differently, blah, blah, blah. Like, and when you start thinking that way, you start to think, wow, I actually want to do good good things in my life. I want to be a good person, huh? Like, wow, I've come a long way. I don't want to just be a selfish, piece of shit that doesn't want to leave the house and just wants to consume like content and
Yeah.
just like I want to like BoJack Horseman in it all the time, all that stuff. And when you realize that's what you don't want to do, you're like, wow, I actually want to find fulfillment in actual things, not just you know binging,
Yeah.
pretty
Not just
much.
vicariously. Yeah.
Right, yeah, like, oh my God, why am I depressed? Oh, because I sat around the house and like did nothing for months like I wanted to. Maybe a few more months of that will work and then I'll feel better, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and so when ideas like these come in your mind of actually wanting to be a real person, you can't help but get inspiration from movies to like really turn the corner and actually be a good person and be a person of society and to be unselfish and live your life like regularly. And so that's why like when I made this list, it was not only inspired by certain movies but also just once I thought of those initial movies, I thought of more and more and more, and like there's a lot of movies I like where I'm like watching anti-heroes, blah blah blah, where I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah, these Scorsese guys are like piece of shit guys, but they're also a product of their environment, and it's also America and society. It doesn't have to always be like that. It can just be like, okay, these movies are like just generally inspiring for me directly. They're not like trying to be anything super, like, I don't know, like layered. They're just kind of like in the end have a message of like, you know, this character learns to be a better person. And a lot of movies do that. They have an arc, but these to me are the ones that like do it like the best. They do it very well, and I guess speak to me a lot.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I like this. I like this list. I like this idea. I definitely get on board with and can empathize with everything you're talking about.
But also, I have no interest in being a better person.
Yeah, but I kind of like being a piece of shit.
So,
So
so I'm with this list. I like these movies, but
I get it,
I
but
personally,
it's not for me. Yeah.
I personally am good. I'd rather just sit here and drink my Busch Light.
Now I'd like to talk about my list, which is movies that want me to be a complete piece of shit.
Oh, I mean, there are those. That's actually not a bad idea, even though
Yeah,
you are
actually,
joking. Yeah.
that's the next episode is
The anti list of
yeah,
this. All
movies that
right.
make
I
me want to
mean,
be a nihilist. Yeah.
so I'm down to just go like I have plenty of those too. I have plenty of those. I'm down to just go through this list kind of one by one, I guess. I could go bottom to top. If that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the first, like, I can go the first two right off the bat, and it's there. We can knock these out really easily, because we've talked about these. The first would be Toy Story 1 and 2. I mean, like, very obvious ones to me, because in the end of both these movies, like it's always about like the first one is about Woody, like Woody learning about man, what does Woody learn again? Woody kind of learns that like he ends up just deciding like that, but like, he ends up helping Buzz instead of being the selfish asshole of wanting all. It's like the oldest child who wants all of the attention, and
Hmm.
then learning to accept new people in the
Yeah.
family, that sort of thing. It's like in the end where Woody ends up just confessing everything he's felt the whole time and being like, Buzz, you are you're like, why wouldn't Andy want you? And he's like really talking about all the stuff that he really like has felt. He's like, you are a cool toy, Buzz. That great moment. You are a cool toy. Fucking Tom Hanks. Yeah, like that's what that whole movie's about. It's really about like family and like about selfishness and fear of also being alone, and I think it comes from like a like kind of a deeply rooted thing within us all to just take the fear of being alone as like taking it out and as like jealousy and
Yeah.
anger and wanting revenge and stuff like that, and like taking it out on other people. um
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Fear of being forgotten and
Right. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's I don't know, it makes me think of times growing up where you'd be like in a friend group and then there'd be a new kid that comes around and then everybody's like, oh,
Right.
this kid's awesome.
I'm like,
and then
he's
everybody's
not that
obsessed.
great. He's
Like, what
not
does he
that
do?
great.
Like, he's not. Yeah, he's not that cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
recall so many things in childhood of like with friends of just people playing favorites, just all this stuff. Obviously, like placing backhanded, like saying like backhanded insults to one person, like ganging up on one, making them feel left out. Just all this
Yeah.
different stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it usually reminds me of. Just Woody's arc in Toy Story, the first one.
And I guess like so the second one, what is that about again?
Well, that's more about like him. I guess like identity and him finding his like belonging. Um, because he finds out his whole backstory, which he didn't know
Right, yeah, yeah.
before.
He finds out his whole backstory, and it's kind of like ends up being between that. Like I know it's deeper than the first one because I like the second one a lot.
Yeah.
It's my favorite one. I'm just trying to like remember exactly like what the very layer of it is, but yeah, it's like it's kind of about a similar thing. It's almost like it's almost like he turns down like fame for like what was what was truly important, but I
Yeah.
know it goes deeper than that as well.
I'd say maybe like balancing where you're from, but like where you belong too, because he finds out like all this stuff about him that he didn't, or about the character of the toy that he is.
Right, well,
And
yeah.
yeah.
And I remember, isn't it like from our episode, isn't it like about existentialism as
Hmm.
well, because he ends up being ripped apart and he's realizing that this is like kind of this is not a permanent thing. And then when he's like he meets the prospector and Jesse and everybody, they're talking about like, you could sit behind glass with us and we'll be alive forever and we'll be glorified. And
Yeah.
he ends up picking like, and he's like, no, you're gonna like, Woody, you're gonna break if you keep playing with kids, blah blah blah. It's not like your life's gonna be permanent. That's so terrible, blah blah blah. Like, and I think that's what the prospector's whole thing is about, is like that is
Yeah, that's what he wants.
terrible. And
Hmm.
it is kind of also about like not wanting to feel those like, I don't know, it's almost like a like that like that decision is like about giving up. It really is, because like Jessie wants to do it because she was so heartbroken um by her owner like letting her go. She does not want that to happen again and stuff like that. And it's all about like, I think it's a lot about like fear of bad things happening in your life and like loss and all this different stuff, I don't know, choosing not to, like, in a way he's choosing not to play the game, like
Yeah.
he's just, yeah, because he sees it's a like, in the end everyone loses. But in like that's, I don't know, but like, which is like kind of very dark themes it's exploring. But like in the end it ends very optimistically, like that is like, I don't know, that's like what you got to do, because he's talking to Buzz and he's like, to infinity and beyond. And for some reason, it all feels good after all that dark stuff I just said. But trust me, it ends good. It ends on a high note.
Yeah, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 1 and 2, both great
Right,
entries
right,
in this list. Yeah.
right.
Good ones to start with too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Okay, so the next one we talked about on our Kicking and Screaming episode. Um, it is Cha Cha Real Smooth, uh, directed and starring Cooper Raiff. Um, it- yeah, I during that episode I talked a lot about how the movie is just about caring for others. In this movie, Cooper Raiff plays a character who is just very involved in Dakota Johnson's and her daughter who has autism's life. And he is just very, in this movie, relentlessly caring and just does everything for them. And it's just like so like I don't know, like I've never had that personally, where I'm like, wow, I got involved with these just people I met lives all of a sudden that I just met, and all of a sudden I'm like taking care of them and all that stuff, and it was like this character just does it without a thought and does it so relentlessly and is just so yeah, it was really moving for me. It was like, yeah, I thought it was like just perfect for this list, and yeah, definitely made me want to do something like that. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, in life you're also supposed to like help people.
Yeah, shocker.
What a good movie. All right, all right, I'm going to bed. Should probably get some food and then go to bed.
What a concept.
I will go back to serving myself.
Nice.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I still have
I'm
yet to
also
see
recommend
that,
that.
but
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah,
That's a 2022 movie,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. I think it's on Apple TV. All right. The next one would be Mean Girls.
This one I'm not shocked, but like I'm more curious that this is on
Okay.
the list. And maybe it's just because I
Yeah.
haven't seen it in a while, but
Like I think people tend to look at Mean Girls as a movie that are like, oh, I remember all the bits, I remember all the lines, like
yeah.
I'm a cat, a mouse, duh, or like it's October 3rd, blah blah blah. It's such ingrained in our culture and all that stuff. But I think in the end, really um what Mean Girls is about, like, is that like this girl has never gone to school in her life. She has never been a part of society. And she's such a good person at the beginning of this movie. And she gets socialized like within like, whatever, like this first year, within a few months, she gets socialized, and she within like this, I don't know the time frame of any of this, but like within the school year, she becomes shitty, just very shitty all of a sudden, as if she's been there this whole time. And I think that just shows, like, it goes to show, like for me, it's like, oh man, like regular society is so toxic. Like it's just so toxic. It's just so not good for anybody. And I think what's amazing about this is like that this character like has this crazy arc where they're like so ignorant at the beginning, then suddenly way too deep into high school, so like high school socializing, and then by the end has like come out of it like suddenly like being like, wow, like what a whirlwind, what even happened to me, like through that, like is suddenly feeling all this guilt that she can probably barely comprehend. But I always get very purposely like inspired, like very inspired, like when Lindsay Lohan's like has this line. She's like, when you get bitten by a snake, you're supposed to suck the poison out. And she's like, that's what I had to do. I had to suck all the poison out of my life. And it shows her like going around apologizing to everyone. And it's just like really amazing to me. Like I think like people don't necessarily think about how great the story is of Mean Girls, but I think the story is fantastic, and it is also just like such a great message in a movie that isn't like presenting any cookie cutter toned down side on what like high school is, or what life is, or what being like a kid is, or a teenager is. I think it's like it puts you in a very realistic world, even more like absurd and crazy than one we live in, and yet like there's such a like real and awesome message for us all to take away.
Mhm. Yeah, nice. I do forget about just like you said, I when I think of Mean Girls, I think of the funny
Right. People
lines or
get
bits
lost
from
in the
it, and like,
bids,
yeah.
like, but yeah, I don't know. For me, I just like, I love the arc of Mean Girls a lot.
And speaking of Lindsay Lohan, she's making a little comeback too. I think she has a new movie coming out this year. I think it's
Yeah, I mean, we'll
yeah.
see. What is it again?
I think it's like a Christmas movie, but
Of course, of
yeah,
course.
it might just be like a Christmas rom-com.
Right. Okay, so
All right, we're recording again.
all right, so my next movie on this list is a more recent movie. It's a 2019 movie starring Jillian Bell called Brittany Runs a Marathon. I don't know if you ever saw it, John.
I haven't. I remember at your like end of the year list, you talking about this one, but and like recommending it, but I still haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like, oh my God, you haven't seen. I'm not going on the streets like, have you ever seen Brittany Runs a Marathon?
Are you
No.
crazy?
But I will say this was a very when I saw it I was back living in Chicago and I saw it like during the day and it was a very like inspirational like afternoon. Like we were talking about with like the Bourdain quote and like BoJack Horseman in it, watching The Simpsons and shit like that. In Brittany Runs a Marathon, Jillian Bell plays a character who is slumping at the beginning of this. She's like overweight and she's drinking at home and she's a mess and her life's a mess. And I was doing some similar shit to this at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, I lay on the couch and I am kind of like feeling very slumped and I'm drinking at home and stuff like that. And like this, I'm just like feel like I'm in this endless circle. And she starts to like work out, tries to improve her life, and she starts training for the marathon that becomes her big inspiration and blah blah blah. And like it's going well for her. And like in the middle of this plot of this plot point, she kind of I don't know, it like things in the middle of this, even though she's getting like skinnier, like some things start to like not go right or with her. And I think it's specifically like relationships and self-worth and stuff like that. So it's not just about like getting skinny and like getting in shape. It's
Hmm.
like about like her full circle of like mental health and like stuff like that. And so I mean, and that on top of the fact that she did like get in shape, it was very none of that stuff would have mattered if she would have got didn't get in shape, John. Let's be clear. But like it was very inspirational. Like I definitely left the theater being like, I'm really gonna turn things around. And I'm pretty sure I did not. But at least I felt in that moment I was like, oh, this is a blueprint to how you turn things around. At least I have that.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend for people like who are not like, just if you're struggling with self-worth, like Brittany Runs a Marathon is a good one. All right, the next one on the list is a Jonathan Demme movie with Anne Hathaway, um called Rachel Getting Married. To be honest, I haven't seen this in a long time. But it's a great movie. And Anne Hathaway in it basically plays a recovering alcoholic who has just been through I don't know, she's just kind of known as the one who just kind of went off the wagon tremendously and really messed up. And she's at this wedding and she feels very out of place. And for the family, she also feels very out of place because she has a really tough vibe on it. And I mean, to be honest, I don't even recall if Anne Hathaway has like. I need to really rewatch this movie because it's really good. But um, Anne Hathaway doesn't. I don't even know if she has a total arc where she like in the end overcomes some. But I think it's more about um her like struggling with this. And I think it's like I don't know. It's just very like a very real performance and a very real scenario that is being portrayed. And for that, I think that's why I put it on this list. Just, um, I wouldn't say this is like inspiring, but I think it's like a very like just like relatable thing for just someone who's struggling, I guess. And yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Rachel getting married is another one I've glossed over and have not gotten to. So
Yeah, I'd say for Anne Hathaway roles, it's one of the more ones where it's like, okay, she's actually doing a real thing here. She's not like trying to be a movie star,
mhm.
necessarily. She's actually trying to play like a real person, and she's really great in it. All right. The next one, I believe I've definitely talked about on the podcast. It is Judd Apatow's Funny People.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, Judd Apatow movies are usually tend to be about bummy guys. So you could put a lot of them in the movies that make me want to be better list. I think specifically why Funny People is on here for me is that the Sandler George Simmons character in this, like how Mean Girls has a arc I really like. Funny People has an arc I really like. I mean, it has a lot of arcs because this movie is a long one, but there's like the first one where Adam Sandler kind of, after he finds out he has cancer and he starts doing all the things like to like prepare, and he starts actually like enjoying his life, and he starts to have a wholesome life in a way he hasn't, because he's been so addicted to show business and just the lonely kind of like rich Hollywood life he's built for himself. He starts to be like, he has this quote where he's with Seth Rogen, and he's like, I played it. I'll do an Adam Sandler impression. He's like, I played it all wrong, Ira. And I think it's like I think there might be a Paul McCartney like Adam Sandler cover or something that's being played. There's a lot of Beatles music in this movie. But so that's like the first thing, is like realizing that. And then the second thing is he gets a second chance at life. He finds out that he didn't have cancer. And so he's like, all right, now I get a second chance. I might as well really live it now. So then he goes after Leslie Mann. And then that turns out to be not a good thing, and kind of it's kind of him continuing to be selfish, basically, is what the movie's saying. But the final shot of the movie is basically Adam Sandler just kind of talking to Seth Rogen about his jokes, which I just love, because it's like really showing the first time the characters being unselfish, and also showing like him show any interest in Seth Rogen's life, like whatsoever. And like I think it's just like a really clever way to end the movie, is just the two of them talking about their material together in this like Burbank like meat market. Um, and on top of that, it's just like so like brilliant for me that like Adam Sandler in this movie is like very miserable, but then you have all these characters like Seth Rogen and Jason Schwartzman, Jonah Hill, who are like they want to be this guy more than
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
But then this guy is over here and he's like miserable, So I just think that's like really brilliant. And like they're also comically desperate to succeed in comedy. And then there's this just like really self-loathing, miserable Adam Sandler, around. So yeah, I think like there's a lot to learn from Funny People, especially as for someone who has been trying to do show business stuff myself.
Yeah. I think yeah, Seth Rogen as the yeah, I guess sort of
Like the protege.
yeah, the protege for him is great because he is very like innocent and wide-eyed
Right, yeah,
and very
yeah,
likable too. Like it's just his
right,
character is like you want him to succeed. And then his he that scene where he kills with his jokes that Sandler was supposed to do, and then Sandler's pissed because
right,
he was doing the jokes. Yeah, and
right.
it's yeah, yeah. It's definitely depressing at times, but yeah, sort of in a therapeutic way. But you know what's
Yeah.
the most therapeutic thing about it is that Jonah Hill is there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
especially yeah. There's like one before we move on. There's like one scene I really like think is funny where and it's like really relatable for me. Like Adam Sandler's like hiring Seth to be his like, hey, you'll like, and he's like saying all the things in the job description. He's like, you'll do my laundry and help out with like the paperwork and stuff, like basically be his assistant, and then you can write jokes for me too, but like also do all this other stuff. And he's like, I'll pay you like I forget what he says. It's like 1,200 or 1,500 a week or some shit like that. And Seth's like, that is amazing, man. And like and as someone who's like been in LA and like has tried to find like jobs and stuff like that, and like kind of has a lot of like very useless skills. I'm like, I see that. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, if that
That's
happened to
amazing,
me,
man.
like from your like idol, and he just offers you like a living wage to be his assistant, and you're like, oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Because like he works at a meat market.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be amazing, man.
And I do love Jason Schwartzman and Jonah Hill
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that too. They're
yeah.
great side characters.
Right, right. All right, that's funny people. And the next one is also a Judd Apatow flick. It is The King of Staten Island with Mr. Pete Davidson. Um, yeah, when I saw this movie, I was 25 and living at home smoking weed, just like Pete's character in this. So I was like, oh, fuck me, when I turned on this movie. But I like this movie is a lot about like it's like really beautiful when like Bill Burr and Buscemi are telling Pete Davidson about his dad and how like his
Hmm.
job like meant something, and kind of getting involved in that firefighter community and being like, what your dad like meant something. He didn't die for nothing, so you don't have to be like so depressed about this. You don't have to be so mad at your dad, all that stuff. um and also just the fact like that this movie is once again another one, and it won't be the not the last one we're talking about on this list, where someone's just trying to get out of a rut, just trying to get out of a slump, and that's what this whole movie's about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just with all the ones you brought up, I mean, I pretty much feel the same way. And yeah, I always think back on that scene too when Buscemi and Bill Burr are talking about his dad. Because that made me think of like when I've been around people who have talked to me about like my dad or grandparents, and they're like, just like I admire that about your dad. Like he just did this and that's so great. And I was like, yeah, that is nice, a nice thing he did. And then I think like, man, what the fuck are people gonna say about me when I get older? Like they're gonna say that I did something good or nice too, you know? Yeah. So it makes me want to be maybe like less of a selfish degenerate at times, and yeah, better person. The whole point of
Right.
the list. Yeah.
Back to the whole point of this list. Okay, so we did the Judd Apatows. The next one is another Anne Hathaway one that I don't have as much of an explanation for why it's on here, but it's on here. It's The Intern with De Niro and Anne Hathaway, which I can't say enough about how much I enjoy watching this movie. It is so wholesome and good. But in terms of how it makes me want to be better, I would say mainly Robert De Niro's character in this. Robert De Niro is such a role model in this movie. He has like such a like I don't know. He has such a his performance has such a like lived in. This guy's been through it all. Now he's just a good guy trying to like work. So during his like semi-retirement, and he has all this life experience that like a lot of us like people addicted to technology would not have, and he's giving it to Anne Hathaway, who's a brilliant young CEO, and he's giving her a perspective that she wouldn't otherwise have, and it's kind of like a really like nice friendship because of that. So I guess it was my explanation for why this on this list would just be Robert De Niro.
I still have yet to see The Intern, but I feel like you've talked about it a couple other times,
I
maybe on the
have,
podcast.
yeah,
So
I've
yeah,
talked about it.
it's one I just forget that is out there, but yeah, I'll have to see it.
It's out there, man. The next one would be The Fellowship of the Ring by Get Back's Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Which also I will say makes me want to be better.
Agreed. Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
be on this list because I just see those guys in there jamming the fuck out, bro. And I'm just like, oh man, I should really like add some of this energy to my life and just be jamming out like these guys. And then
I should
like
write a song. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, pretty much.
Yeah.
We should jam together, man. But
Yeah, totally.
yeah, but anyways, the Lord of the Rings just in general, I mean, like is like I don't know, like there's that quote where with Gandalf where it's like Frodo's like, I wish the ring had never happened to me. I wish none of this had ever happened. And Gandalf's like, so do all those who deal with such times. But it is not like goes like it is not for us to decide what we do, but just to decide what we do with what is given to us. You know, it's kind of
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
very that like awesome quote about like yeah, just like I don't know in life, you know, in general, just like what we like not like thinking about our situation, but what we can do with that situation, I guess. And that's what
Yeah.
the Lord of the Rings is very much about. And I mean, and like I've been going like deep into some of these, but like Lord of the Rings, I mean, everyone is just so like noble, you know? I mean, really, like everyone's like so noble and it's so just trying to be good. It's like, how could you not? It's like,
Yeah. That's where I mean that's a I feel like you can endlessly compare these two, and it's just because they're fantasy, medieval, whatever. But that's where like, Game of Thrones makes me feel like, oh God, yeah, life sucks and like there's death and all of this around.
right.
Whereas Lord of the Rings is much more inspiring and
Right. Yeah. No, yeah.
um
Game of Thrones is not inspiring in the way that
no,
Lord of the Rings is.
yeah, yeah. Lord of the Rings is definitely a great one for this
Yeah.
list.
And there's that Sam quote at the end of the there's that Sam monologue at the end of the Two Towers where, you know, like he's like, there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's
Mhm.
worth fighting for. It's like the most
Yeah, yeah.
inspirational like monologue
It's worth
ever.
fighting for.
As
Yeah.
and yeah, it's like compiled with them like winning the battle and all that stuff. And I don't know, I would say even Howard Shore's score speaks to this theme a lot of the
Yeah.
time too. So yeah, I mean I
And
could go on and on about that. Lord of the Rings is a whole
yeah.
nother episode. I try not to like blow my load on it too much, you know,
Yeah.
just in passing.
That scene at the end though when they go, "My friends, you bow to no one," and then everybody bows to the hobbits, the little hobbits that,
That could.
yeah, yeah, the little
Yeah.
hobbits that could, yeah, it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
a
And
great like persevering story of these
yeah.
people
Yeah.
that
That's what
shouldn't
it
have
really
gone
is. Just
through.
it's about perseverance. Yeah. Yeah. People
Yeah.
who shouldn't have gone through it, people who should be drinking beer and you know, living the life of comfort that they're supposed to be. And
Hmm.
like the whole idea of adventure, you know, like for these types of people is kind of like very relatable to all of us. Like I feel as a like I've always felt as like a dude from Glen Ellen that grew up like playing video games and watching Star Wars and you know and like stuff like that and you know came from very humble stuff. Every like step has for me has been like being a hobbit, like going on some journey,
Yeah, leaving the cushy suburbs of Chicago on your journey
Yeah,
to LA. Yeah.
I've always thought like Glen Ellen was like a Shire-esque place,
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. If only the Shire had a few more strip malls, then it would be perfect.
Right, obviously outside of the commercialism. Okay, but yeah, that's the Fellowship of the Ring. All right, the next one would be another comedy. It'd be Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which is another movie about just getting out of a rut. I think the specific time in the movie that I can speak to is well, there's multiple things, but like I think like some of the big reveals in it is like when they're going over the past of the relationship, and you're kind of looking back on it, and like Jason Segel's kind of like wondering this whole time like why she left and crying about the fact that she leaves, but then they go back and look at it, and it's like, oh, he was like a mess like the whole time. Like during the relationship, he was in sweatpants, he was in his comfort zone, and really her breaking up with him is like his comfort zone, like being stripped away from him. And like meeting Mila Kunis ends up enabling him to do things like finish his Dracula musical, and like that's what gets him out of this rut of like making stupid TV jingles, and being obsessed with his girlfriend, and just kind of living a life that really wasn't about him. It was always about her, and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And so I think, like, again, like a movie that has endlessly great bids and like things that everyone says all the time, like you sound like you're from London, and like blah blah
Sound like you're
blah.
from London.
Like
Yeah.
everything
Uh,
Paul Rudd says,
yeah.
everything everything
Jonah
um
Hill.
Jonah again. Yeah, I mean Jonah Hill, that's been one of his best comedic performances for me.
Yeah.
Just those few times he's in it. um I like the arc again in this comedy just quite a lot. Like it's why it's not just endlessly rewatchable because of the bits. It's because like it's a great like movie about this character.
Yeah. Yeah. And Paul Rudd has some good life lessons too. Like when they're surfing and he goes, yeah, when life gives you lemons, say fuck the lemons and bail. I always love that line too.
I
Uh
love the line where he's like, well, only one cure for that. What? I think this might be an extended edition line, but so you only get it some of the times, but I like it a lot. And he's like, what's the cure for that? And he's like, weed. Do you got any? And
yeah.
he's like, no. And he's like, well, then let's go surfing. And he like, because you're expecting surfing to be the line the whole time, but he's like, weed. You got any?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great one for just I don't know, becoming yourself again, or
Right.
getting out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like reinventing himself in a way.
Yep.
All right. The next one on my list. I don't think we've ever talked about this movie on the
Yeah, I don't.
pod, but it's quite
Yeah.
an iconic film. Good Will Hunting, the movie that the boys from Boston made and won best screenplay for, and a classic Robin Williams performance. And yeah, definitely an obvious one on this list. One that's also involves therapy. And it's like this one's kind of about I guess confronting your past, and like also how our past affects us and stuff like that. And you got this underachiever who's like really being kept down by, like, I guess a lot of the issues and anger he has from growing up in Southie, which I've never been to Southie, but I hear it referenced a lot in movies, and it's apparently a rough place. So also, if you're interested in more Southie stuff, check out The Departed. um
Yeah.
and I guess also in the end, like, I love how this movie, like, once again, this character has the chance to like do something like make a lot of money or get a lot of fame or like just pursue like academia with this like talent he has for mathematics. And in the end he ends up leaving to go see the girl, and he going all the like driving across California, and that's how it ends. And like he kind of chooses that like what's really important over, like you kind of think the arc of the movie is like, oh, he's really gonna like stop being a janitor or stop working out in construction and focus on like really like what he should be doing and getting a good job and career. But he ends up leaving to go to California to be with the girl he loves, and probably then to go work in another construction site in
Yeah.
California because he burned this connection on the East Coast. So maybe he did make a huge mistake. But in the end, it's about the true values that are what matters.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't talked about this one yet,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
The next one is Noah Baumbach's Marowitz Stories, which is like the movie Magnolia, a movie about kind of confronting how your parents affect you as you grow up, and how that kind of can mess you up as an adult and also mess you up and your relationship with your family. I kind of just love in this movie how Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler both at the beginning are very like anti each other, especially. And in the end, after they've confronted a lot of the baggage with their dad, played by Dustin Hoffman, they kind of end up like caring for each other at the end. And I think it's so sweet because like Adam Sandler, especially his character in this, doesn't like he doesn't have anything going on, and he's like clinging to his daughter who's now in school. And Ben Stiller at the end just kind of says like, why don't you come out to LA? Why don't you come out to LA? Like, check it out, blah, blah, blah. And it like kind of gives him like a new start. And Adam Sandler kind of abandons his dad, which sounds like bad, but in the context of this movie, it's actually like him deciding like, no, I need to stop like giving my selfish father like everything and dedicating my whole life to my father. Like I should go
Mm.
out and have my own life, and I like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to revisit this because yeah, and I've seen it once and I didn't like. I really liked it, but the whole like I don't know theme of the movie didn't stick with me as much. Not because it's not good, just because we watch a lot of movies.
Mainly because
So
it's
yeah,
not good.
yeah, because it sucks. Yeah, no, I just wish I remembered. I could recall more from
Yeah, I
it.
mean, I've seen it probably 5 times at this
Yeah.
point, so I'm a little deep into it. But I would say a lot of Baumbach movies are like they're always about really selfish characters, and and a lot of the times I would say they don't even really like resolve that selfishness at the end of it. I would say like the Squid and the Whale, like you just kind of see them like do it to themselves over and over again. Same with like Marriage Story. But like Marowitz and like Francis Ha are the two where I think at the end like the characters truly become like better people at the end. Like there's a clear like, they're clearly resolving their issues and trauma or whatever. The next one we've definitely talked about. It is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I don't need to go into it too much. I mean, like, Steve Martin at the beginning is such a grump. In the end, he is like drinking shooters with Del Griffith in a hotel room. I mean, the movie's 100% about letting go of so many things, and he learns it from Del Griffith, and who's a man of the people. And Del Griffith truly makes Steve Martin's character better at the end of it. And in the end, he lets Del stay with him, and it's so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect movie for this. Just the perfect juxtaposition of characters with Steve
Yeah,
Martin and John
yeah,
Candy. Yeah, this is yeah, it's an all-timer.
yeah. All right, so there's some seasonal for you guys.
Yeah,
The next film I bring up with a little hesitancy because I just learned something. The next film is Honey Boy, written by Shia LaBeouf and also starring Shia LaBeouf. And when I saw this movie, I was very moved, and also thought it was a great movie about like recovery and stuff like that. But I don't know. Shia LaBeouf was on a podcast, John Bernthal's podcast, and he apparently said that Honey Boy was total bullshit, and he wrote it just to get back into the industry, and that his dad in the movie, who he plays, was not like that at all. So I am just
really.
very fucking like, yeah, that like really conflicted me for sure because I liked Honey Boy a lot and was one of my favorites of the year when it came out. I remember, and yeah, I just thought that was a shame.
Wow. Yeah, he got a ton of sympathy when that came out too, just about,
Yeah, exactly,
because
exactly.
he clearly has gone through a lot since his Even Stevens child actor
Right, right,
days. And so this is kind
right.
of like, yeah, like you said, recovery. Um and yeah, and see, and like, I don't know, like everyone was empathizing with him because he seemed
Right.
like he went through a lot, and I think
And it felt
everyone,
very intimate, and
yeah,
personal. And apparently it's not, it's like
wow,
not as based off of it at all. So that's a damn shame. But
yeah,
Shia LaBeouf also very much more than like Jonah Hill, more than Jonah Hill, maybe a little less than Kanye West, seems very off of his rocker, like
yes,
just very nuts. So yeah, like he was also supposed to be in Don't Worry Darling, speaking of
yep,
that movie. And then like the first big thing is that he walked off the set
yeah.
or whatever, or was fired or whatever the hell the story is.
He's a big
So
reason for all that controversy behind that
right,
movie in general. Yeah,
right, right. And even though I almost think it is more on his end. Even though
yeah,
the movie itself it was a shit show of a production. I don't know, like he seems a little like crazy now, but it's kind of like I kind of also enjoy it. But I am disappointed by that Honey Boy is
wow.
not super authentic. It's the one stain on this otherwise perfect list.
Yeah, that's a bombshell. I didn't hear about that at all.
Well, I guess it's not the only stain on this list. Before we get to break, I will talk about
Uh-oh.
this next one because the next movie on the list is King Richard. So, unfortunately, I have a movie with Will Smith also on this list. But I will say, when I watched King Richard, I was inspired and I thought that Richard Williams had good lessons in the movie for his daughters. And he didn't want them to sell out and he wanted them to be true to themselves. Even though, who wants to support Will Smith or that movie anymore?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, it is.
it's also a lesson that not to slap people while they're doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Don't be a narcissist and go and slap someone for making a stupid joke. Yeah. Don't, yeah, just don't assault someone in general. uh but it is, the Williams sister story is really like incredible, um just in general. So it's yeah, it's too bad that it's their story overall is kind of overshadowed by this now. Just
Right.
these girls from Compton who went through so much just bullshit in the uppity tennis world to get to where they
Yeah, yeah,
are.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like
Um,
Yeah, I don't know, like they had to like break ground, to get into that world because they're not like you have to be like rich. It's like a rich person's sport.
Yeah, to be really good at it, yeah, you have to. It's all people who have been in, uh, yeah, I don't know, just like training their entire lives with like world class trainers
Right.
that their parents pay for, and yeah, it's to get to where they were, from where they started. It's an incredible story. So
All right. The next movie is Spider-Man 2, which we talked about this year also. This one to me, like the Toy Stories, is obvious. And has like just a very clear message. I mean, like Spider-Man 3, Peter Parker actually goes bad. Like Spider-Man 2, him going bad is like, I am not going to be Spider-Man anymore. I am going to focus on my life. You know what I mean? Like that's him, I don't know, like some people don't even focus on their lives. Like he's like, I'm actually gonna be responsible and get things done in my life because I'm not saving the city. And
yeah,
now I feel bad that I'm not saving the city, but I'm getting things done with my life. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, can we keep up with Peter Parker? Yeah, Sam Raimi's Peter Parker is just such a good guy.
yeah,
Played it simply, just a role model for us all.
showing up late to the play because he's saving somebody else, and then he,
Right,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
doesn't want to
yeah.
let the people down around him, doesn't want to let down the people he doesn't even know. Yeah, it's yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
Good guy Peter Parker. Yeah,
Goes to Aunt May at the end of the day, goes all the way out to Queens to go see Aunt May. Doesn't
yep.
even remember it's his birthday, and he's in his early 20s. He's a college kid. He's taking care of everyone around him. Not even mad that his best friend, who's probably like a billionaire, doesn't offer him a job and lets him
Yeah,
slum it in his studio apartment.
yeah, he's a ridiculously smart guy too. Always
Yeah.
seems to be down on his luck. Yeah.
Brilliant but lazy.
Yeah. He gets these great photo shoots of Spider-Man, and he just gets ridiculed by his boss at the
Yeah,
newspaper,
yeah. He gets fucked on all the photos
Yeah.
by the newspaper he works for. Well, and we were talking about that. We went through that one scene in detail where he's at the event, which kind of, when you were like talking about the Denver Film Festival premiere, it kind of reminded me of like the event where he's taking photos of the sun's like I don't even know what the event is exactly, but it's like a high class event, and the son ends up like
Yeah.
proposing to Mary Jane at the event.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
just that string of like world crushing things where like he gets like told by Mary Jane that like they can't be together, blah blah blah, and then Franco like is slapping him drunkenly in the face in front of everyone, and then like Mary Jane gets proposed to, and then like Jonah Jameson goes like, "Hey Parker, take the picture,"
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
his of the love of his life being like taken away from him. Yeah, so it's like one of the most enduring characters really there is. All right, that's Spider-Man 2. The next movie features another Spider-Man actor. Um, it is Tick Tick Boom, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda and starring Andrew Garfield from last year, and it was one of my favorite movies of last year. Um, I think like I don't know, this movie's just simply about a very self-involved young artist who is very obsessed and very all about his work, and he lets it go like to like his it lets it go like his friendships suffer because of it, his girlfriend relationship with his girlfriend suffers because of it. I don't know, he's so obsessed with especially like turning 30 in this movie, and the fact that if something doesn't happen, like some I don't know, I guess some like validation from the world that like what he's doing is like the right thing, that he's like wasting everything, and blah blah blah. And in the end, the movie is kind of saying like to him that like it isn't really all like this is an ongoing thing. you have time in your life,
Yeah.
and don't neglect what you have around you because you think that you have to do everything by the time you're 30, you know?
This came out of a really good time for us
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
we
exactly.
are approaching 30. Yeah, and that's definitely I think a struggle um with people of our age, especially who want to do something more with their life than just
Whatever they're
have a
doing.
have a simple life chugging along doing the same thing what they're doing now, and don't have these hopes and dreams for something bigger down the road. um
Right.
and that makes this so much more tragic too when you think that he died right before Rent premiered on Broadway.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
devastating. But yeah, this was a really really great movie. um
Mhm. Yeah, I
yeah.
re-listened to the opening song of it a lot. I recommend it like on like drives or something like that because it kind of is like just him talking about anxiety of turning 30. It's what the whole song is about, and so what sets the
Hmm.
movie up. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I got to revisit the soundtrack for this.
You should. They unfortunately don't have every number on there, but they have a few really good ones that are like good to re-listen to.
On Spotify.
Yeah, yeah. Like I
Cool.
for instance, I wish they had the music from his play in it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
his workshop that he ends up doing, like cuz I like some of that stuff a lot, but they don't have that on there.
Hmm.
But yeah, anyway, that's Tick Tick Boom.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So the next two films are arguably like some of the ones that like really inspired this list. I mean, I'm pretty into a lot of these as you can see. But like for instance, the next one, Groundhog Day, um, which we haven't talked about on this podcast either.
Yeah.
Definitely really inspired this list. Like, oh my goodness gracious, like Groundhog Day is the most like be a better person movie I ever. Like it really is. Yeah, I love how just the first part of it, Bill Murray is just all like about him. He's like, all right, let's get to the location. Did you get
Hmm.
me into my hotel? Ugh, I hate being in this small town. Ugh, like I mean, I relate to that a lot. Like
Yeah.
I've gone places and been like, oh fuck this place and all these weird small town people, and I can't be here, blah blah blah. Like I can't wait to get out of here. And just been grumpy the whole time, like um, and he's like he hates that he has to do such a stupid I'm covering the Groundhog Day, like blah blah blah. And like I guess he just the fact that he forms this he kind of just like as he who knows like who knows how long he relives the same day,
Yeah.
he fills this like this existence where he just like finds purpose of like just helping everyone in it by like having the power of knowing how everything goes. um and like you watch him most of the movie trying to use it for selfish reasons, like for instance when he's trying to be with Andy McDowell before, it's all through manipulation and selfish reasons in the middle of it, by like doing the same interaction over and over again. And then the end of the movie when he finally is with Andy McDowell, it's like he hasn't even tried, it's just through him witnessing all his like good deeds everywhere.
Yeah, I remember this and the last one on your list that we'll talk about. I remember watching both of these for in school for some reason, and both being like early memories of my first time of like actual self reflection. Even
Yeah,
as as a kid, not really relating totally to Bill Murray's character, but yeah, just like you said, thinking of times where I've just been complaining or selfish or thinking about myself,
right,
and
right.
yeah, just going through the motions of you know the world all revolves around me, so let's get through this so that I can be done
Right,
with it and
right.
move on to something
No,
else.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
movie kind of shows you that way of thinking. It's like, I don't know, kind of like a never-ending, um, like just a losing battle. Like you're
Yeah.
just in a tunnel, a dark tunnel of your own bullshit, and it doesn't get you anywhere. And like it kind of puts the like it kind of like puts the message of like life is about like caring for others in a not like corny way, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Basically saying that if you keep letting yourself be so miserable every single day, then that's going to be your life. You're going to be always like that every day.
Yeah, and like alone and like
Yeah.
all that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's Groundhog Day. And the next one is It's a Wonderful Life, which is a very direct, you know, like I mean, it's about a very great guy already. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like Groundhog Day. It's about the best, one of the best guys ever. But I'm currently trying to recall the plot of It's a Wonderful Life, but it's it's kind of about someone who's given up, wants to think that like all of it was for nothing,
Hmm.
and then you kind of see the little things of what you did along the way. And I don't know, it's like on top of like like the lesson that James Stewart learns, and the fact that he's just so good and enduring throughout this movie. Like, yeah, like, and then at the end, like, I forget, they find the money or something like that, or like how I forget like what happens, but like
Yeah. Wow. I've seen this like
I don't remember,
several
but
times.
somehow they have all this money at the end. I think they find it, like the uncle who loses it finds the money,
I think, yeah,
and
I
they
think he
are
finds it.
the final shot is him just like giving away to like
Yes. Yeah.
everyone in the neighborhood, and it's just like such a sweet thing.
Yeah.
On top of the like him just kind of waking up from like a like near suicidal like slump, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, he's a great person who just he snaps. Um
Right, exactly. He
yeah, because of this
snaps.
big, this mistake that he's so stressed out about. And yeah, he loses his cool on like his whole family and the people that love him and care for him. And yeah, and then but then once he goes through that suicidal episode, and his guardian angel is there to show him what yeah, I don't know what his life is
Is
like.
really all been about and what it's all
Yeah.
meant, you know, and like, yeah.
And just seeing him like run through the town at the end, just all like
Right, exactly. Like the energy of
elated.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's like a classical tale that like we all know of and have seen a lot, but like I don't know, every time I watch I'm like, wow, this makes me feel so like thankful and
Right.
good for nothing I've done, but for what he's done, for what could be done, I guess, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like this is the perfect movie for this list. Like it it does
Yeah.
exactly what the list is about, which is like
Right.
makes me want to be a better person. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what James Stewart goes through
Yeah.
when he yeah, meets his guardian angel. I can't remember his name, but yeah, those
Yeah, it's somebody.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
It's a Wonderful Life is always it always does something to me when I watch it.
mm-hmm.
It's always like a
Yeah.
transformative experience.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, that is the list.
Yeah.
I hope that this podcast changes lives
Yeah, that's what we're set out to do. Yeah.
and makes everyone want to be better.
This is our
Yeah.
we're competing with what
Jonah
is it?
Hill.
Stutz. Is that what it is?
Stutz, yeah. Maybe this like, man, this is a ridiculous thing to say, but maybe this will teach everyone that we're all not just Republicans and Democrats. We're all people.
At the end of the day, we're all Americans.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
So everyone go out and be a good American.
So go vote. Yeah, even though this is the day after election day.
Well, and it will be like 2 weeks after.
It's gonna end up being, yeah. But still, hey, go vote.
Man, I really hope nothing terrible happens in these next 2 weeks, and we put out this episode. So go vote.
Yeah, who knows what the future will be like, but yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see.